Good evening, multitudes. Art Wright here. As I am on the eve of the release of my new album, Jerseybraska, I figured it was a good time to just talk about what the hell Jerseybraska even means, in case you were wondering. You see, Jerseybraska was the joke working title of this project that I launched around the September-October timeframe of last year. It was never intended to be the final title, but it was kind of an inside joke and homage to Bruce Springsteen, who I explained on a previous episode was a huge inspiration for me. And I have been a fan since the late 70s, and especially since the first Springsteen concert that I saw in 1981. Now, it was shortly after that album and tour where he released his first solo record called Nebraska. So my title, Jerseybraska, was just a joke to kind of say, well, you know, this is my first solo album, and that was kind of my homage to Bruce. As more time went on, however, and the deeper I got into the project, the more that I realized Jerseybraska might be a real good title for this after all. You see, I've lived two halves of my life in two different versions of New Jersey. I grew up in the gritty, suburban, almost urban, version of New Jersey, very close to Newark, which is probably the best example of the urban side of New Jersey. And then in 2003, we moved out to the more rural part, where as you're driving these country roads and passing cornfields and meeting some of the locals, it feels like you're somewhere else entirely, like Nebraska, for example. So Jerseybraska is a good title, I think, to kind of capture that duality of where I've lived and what I've experienced in the state. But of course, New Jersey doesn't have a dual personality. It has a multiple personality. The Jersey Shore, for example, is something else entirely. It's not rural. It's not urban. It's its own thing. And there's a couple songs about the Jersey Shore on my album as well. So I've often described Jerseybraska as a self-portrait disguised as songs about New Jersey, and I visit a lot of different places. So in that context, I was trying to think about, well, what do those places symbolize, as I'm trying to give an impression of myself and my life through this music. And I spent many nights, down in Asbury Park, for example, watching Southside Johnny and the Asbury Jukes, at the Stone Pony and other places, and Bruce showing up, and, a lot of other bands that I'd seen down there. And then for the past 24 or 25 years, I've been vacationing with my family down in Wildwood. And, those places for me, are where I wouldn't mind spending all of eternity, especially at Wildwood with my family. So that, to me, kind of represents heaven in the context of the album. So if that represents heaven, then what place on the album represents hell? And I think the answer is Lodi, New Jersey. Now, I should explain that's no slight against the great town of Lodi or its wonderful people. I have nothing against it. The reference is to the Creedence Clearwater Revival song, Lodi, which I cover on this record. And there are very specific reasons that I chose to do this cover song. And the first is kind of a joke. Now, I grew up with Creedence Clearwater Revival being part of the soundtrack of my life. I mean, I've always stopped dead in my tracks anytime one of their songs came on the radio. And I'm a great admirer of John Fogerty. He's one of my songwriting heroes. And the way that he can put across big ideas and universal truths using very, very simple language in very, very short, catchy songs is the model for my own songwriting. And I think, along with Bruce and Elvis Costello and others, John ranks very high, among my major heroes and inspirations. And being Jersey-centric all my life, I always stupidly thought that song was about Lodi, New Jersey. I didn't know there was a Lodi, California. So my first thought in doing a cover of this song for this particular album was kind of a joke. my version is about Lodi, New Jersey, even though I've changed absolutely none of the lyrics. But there's a deeper meaning here as well, because if you listen to the song and what it's talking about, you know, a down and out musician having no luck and kind of stuck in this place, I've adopted "Oh Lord, stuck in Lodi again" as a personal, mantra when I find myself stuck in those long, depressing periods where I've released some work of art and it's obviously being completely ignored and it's dying a slow death. And then, that's when I say to myself, well, I guess I'm stuck in Lodi again. So if we accept all this symbolism, then what is Jerseybraska? Well, it could be that it's a mythical place that represents purgatory. There's good and there's bad, and then there's hope as well. And that's kind of the waiting room where you sit and await, what the final judgment of your work and your worth and your life is going to be. So that kind of wraps everything up neatly into a bundle, and I hope explains why Jerseybraska had to be the title for this record. And so if you're kind enough to give this album a fair listening and kind of stick with it all the way through, I hope that it will not only give you a good idea of who I am and why I think New Jersey is a special place, but I hope you'll also pick up on the universal themes, and it will cause you to think about how where you come from and where you live defines what you believe, how you speak, how you dress, what you eat, what you listen to, and who you are ultimately. So now I let go of my creation and I place it into your capable hands. I thank you for listening. If you need me, I'll probably be in Lodi for a while until the next project rolls along. But, please do keep the comments, likes coming. It means the world to me. And until next time, thank you and God bless. Is this microphone still on?
Just about a year ago,